On this episode, we got Michael Kiser from Good Beer Hunting as we talk about uppers and downers happening February 23rd. Here we are, hitting up events, drinking our way through Chicago beer, and trying not to miss a thing.
Yeah, because, the cork popped out, it flies like fucking 10 feet. We're like, yeah, let's do it.
All you have to do is add some fruit, stir it up, and ride that milkshake wave.
Whenever I see him, I gotta take a photo with the most decorated brewer in Chicago, Jonathan Cutler.
It'll be like the stuff you hear. Every time you go to Floyd's, all the music sounds like this. Raw, raw, raw.
Sometimes you want a small beer, but really, you want a big beer.
You gotta take in all those big aromatic hops.
Hey, what are you doing this weekend? Waiting in line for a bottle release?
Should have never been a fad. The black IPA is delicious.
Hey, and welcome to Chicago Beer Pass. I'm Brad Chmielewski.
Hey, Brad, what's up, man? I'm Nik White.
Now I got special guest joining us once again, Michael Kiser.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man.
Becoming an annual tradition.
It's been a year already, man. That blew my mind when I saw this on the schedule.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we're talking about uppers and downers, but we're going to talk about everything you're kind of working on.
Okay,
and
cool.
Of course, beer and wherever the conversation goes. But like uppers and downers, like we definitely have been hyping it up and talking to people, and so it's always a fun event. So
Yeah,
want to hear.
we're in that zone where people start chattering about it because it's kind of imminent now, about a month out.
Yeah, and then you brought us a handful of
things.
beers here.
Yeah.
Just stuff you guys.
Some of it, yeah. I mean, I brought you a couple East Brother beers from we call it the Freighter series.
Okay.
This is a company we helped launch about 3 years ago. We're about to have their third anniversary.
Okay.
Out in East Bay, Richmond, California. And these are their bigger beers, the Freighter series. They're like in the port of Richmond, so like freighters are going by there all the time.
Oh, cool.
So this is the Belgian Triple, which I find to be one of the more drinkable Belgian triples I've ever had, which is pretty dangerous. Pretty dangerous way to describe a triple. I've been drinking this and playing video games a little too much lately.
Okay.
And then the
hiding
English Strong.
from the cold, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Those video games will grab a hold of you, man.
You've been on your 2K.
Yeah, I don't know if I really have insomnia or if it's I have a video game problem.
I hate myself sometimes. I'm like, yeah.
Are you addicted to multiple games or just one at the moment?
I basically have a box that plays MLB The Show. That's the only thing that ever turns on. I don't know.
Okay.
It's like slipping into a shoe. I just sit down, fire it up, and I'm managing my franchise.
Okay.
It's one of those kinds of things.
Nice. And next on the 2K.
NBA 2K20.
Okay.
I bought it. I downloaded it. I'm working up the courage to play something other than the show.
It's I mean, they do such a good job of so many modes that it's disturbing. This is what like heroin feels like.
Did you play basketball?
A little bit. I mean, well, all the time I can pick up.
Yeah,
but
sure.
I don't think I played organized probably since like 5th grade. Right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Because like I find the reason why I think I'm addicted to the baseball ones, other than like the numbers and nerdery of it, is like my body remembers what it was like to do it.
Yeah.
And like these games have become so realistic, like the way that the players move and the weird little quirks they have in the game and stuff. Like, man, is that real?
You feel you're like, ow.
Yeah, like it reminds your body what it was like to go through some of those motions, and like I find that to be like transportive. It's pretty wild. I love it.
With a huge baseball video game era through like PSP. Remember that?
Yeah.
Every day on my way to Lake Forest, I played that baseball game. Every day.
I love it. I love baseball games. All about accumulation.
Yeah, I'm a big Sox fan, but Wrigley was my favorite place to play. Oh man, that ivy, those buildings.
Mm-hmm.
What are we doing, man?
I sucked you in.
So that triple, this is nice. I know like nothing about them.
Yeah, I mean you won't find their stuff anywhere other than Northern California, and probably for a while. Although they are going to be out here for the Lager and Friends Festival that Gathering Place is doing in Milwaukee in March, where they invite a bunch of like lager nerds.
Oh, okay.
Because these guys make a bunch of lagers. They have a whole like rotating lager series, but they're Bo Pills, which I wish I could have brought. I just got some freshies delivered at the house today, but that's back home. Bo Pills took gold in the California Brewers Cup, and it took silver at JBF this year.
Nice.
For the Bohemian Pilsner category. So that's blowing up for them right now. which I think is what scored them that invite to Lager and Friends, which I'm
Okay.
excited they're going to come this way for the first time ever.
I feel like I've heard of that, but never made it up there for that. Yeah.
This is very pleasant.
Well, I missed it last year because it was the same exact day as Uppers and Downs.
Oh, okay.
Which we coordinated better this time because I wanted to go.
You wanted to. Yeah, that's kind of a funny thing as you run events. You're like, when's the other people I know have an event? We can't step on toes here, and you're stealing audiences, and so.
So I think one of the things that gets lost when you talk about, well, for us anyway, when we talk about good beer hunting, is like, you're working with these guys in Richmond, and then I think one of the last times I saw you was at Roebuck.
That's right. Yeah.
So you're working with brands directly. You're launching brands every year, man.
Yeah, it's funny. Like some people think that we're like editorial and marketing,
right?
But what we really do is like we build and design some of these businesses from the ground up. Like we're launching them, and in some cases, like we have a piece of it. Like that's the business that we're in now. I think last time I was here, we were talking a little bit about the business going that way, and that's very much come true in the last year. And my background is not in marketing at all. My background is in brand strategy and innovation planning, which is like way more in the weeds on like how are you designing the business model, what does the revenue model look like, who are your target, like building up the actual operation of it. And then the marketing side, like these guys, like East Brother, for example, like runs most of their own marketing. Like we help figure out like what direction they want to go on stuff, but like we're not running like social media accounts and shit. Like that's day-to-day stuff.
You have the image or the overall kind of look for them, and they kind of run with it.
Yeah, and we do package and we manage that brand, and we keep them looking sharp and being smart about what they want to do next and what expansion looks like and what markets they want to go into and like the big strategic stuff. Like that's where we spend our time.
Okay.
So with Roebuck, and Greg Schuff is such an awesome like restaurant operator. Yeah. Like he came to us and he had an opportunity that was with real estate next door, and he's like, I want to do pizza and cocktails and some beer made on site. Like, what could that be? And that's basically where we start. Oh. And that sounds like a simple idea, but like, how do you do that well? And how do you not cannibalize the sales of the restaurant you literally own right next door? So how do you make something like additional to that neighborhood that's incremental in some way and like gives you a different concept to play in, and where do you find efficiencies between the businesses and all that kind of stuff? Like that's where we're in the weeds on that. And then we made what I think is like a gorgeous brand for that thing. Cooper Foz, one of our illustrators and designers, just knocked that out of the park.
It's an interesting play, especially that place, because it's so different from the spot next door. Usually if you buy a spot next door, it's just like, all right, cool. Lewis Keys bought the spot next door.
Expands.
Yeah. But no, it's a different concept.
He's a smarter guy than that for sure. Like, that guy understands what it's like to run multiple concepts, and like he knows that those are for different people on different nights and like for a different mode. If I was in the mood for dry hop, I wouldn't be going to Roebuck and vice versa. So like I don't think they're really stealing from each other. And the numbers tell us that it's working.
I still haven't been. Nick, have you gone since that opening?
I went to the launch.
Okay.
I'm never really over that way.
That's
on my route is I'm closer to Corridor.
Yeah.
I'm more likely to go to Corridor than be over by Roebuck and Dry Hop. So.
Yeah, Lakeview's kind of a homer neighborhood. Like unless you live near there, like you're probably like you don't really leave or go into that neighborhood that much.
Yeah.
But it's a super dense neighborhood. There's a lot of folks there.
Like I was at G-Man's Tap last night, G-Man's Tavern, and I was like, dude, I haven't been here in a year. I haven't been in this area in like a year. Yeah.
Did you go to that Chicago Bars presentation?
I did.
Yeah, I wanted to go so bad.
That was fun. In the back bar.
Okay.
Yeah, and Chicago Bars was there. Nice presentation between him and
Carruthers.
Carruthers from Rev. Yeah.
So you know who Chicago Bars is then?
I just met him for the first time.
I want you to dish. I don't know if I want you to dish on this microphone now.
This is weird because I had a photo. And he was like, yeah, we don't do that.
Yeah.
I was like, I like this guy. This is fun. It's even more fun now.
I've sort of like nudged a couple times to try and figure it out, and then I backed away immediately. I was like, I don't want to fuck it up. I don't want to be disappointed. I don't want to know who this is. I just want to enjoy it.
Yeah, because like we never have that talk, but then later on you're like, oh yeah, that's him. But he doesn't say it, and you don't ask, and you leave knowing. It's bizarre.
But it's not Bill Savage.
No, wait, I don't know who Bill Savage is.
He's like the historian Dan Savage's brother.
This guy wasn't overly.
Because Bill Savage talks to his account a lot, and sometimes I'm like, You're smart enough. This could be both. Like you could be both of these.
I don't know. Now I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. We'll talk about it later.
How many people are at GBH right now? Like,
oh man,
what's
so
the
the core team on the studio side, which is where I spend most of my time still, is 6-ish people.
Okay.
And then the editorial side, I mean, God, that's like 40 people now, depending on where you draw the line. Like, I think we probably have like a kind of a core crew of like 20-ish that write for us like pretty regularly, and like they would identify as like I'm a GBH person.
Nice.
And then there's a wider network of people that they write for other places, and they write for us occasionally, kind of like big feature kind of things. That network just keeps getting bigger, and it's going international. We actually we put Claire Bullen in charge. She's based out of London. She's editor-in-chief she took over this year, which opened us up to a whole bunch of new kinds of writers and people and voices, which was cool. And we're bringing on Evan Rail, based in Prague. He's going to be our international editor.
Oh, wow.
So his job is to start expanding like our voice and our reach and awareness across Western Europe, Asia, South America, places like that, where we know that there are voices that it's going to take a little bit of work to figure out where those homegrown insider kind of voices are, which is what we're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm not trying to send people there to write about that culture. I want that culture writing to us in a way.
Yeah. Well, that China beer culture, like that fest, the Beguile's always there. Like that seems like, I don't know. There's a group of people there that.
Plenty happening.
Well, there's lots of people there. Yeah. There's like a group of beer people that are like interested enough in this that
for sure
have some things to say.
So we're interested to find out if there's good beer hunting kind of people there, you
Yeah.
know, that could tell the stories from those places and make it and like present it in the way that we present stuff and really make it compelling.
But you've had the international footprint because Uppers and Downers has been London.
Yeah, we've been dipping our toe in a few different places. Like we did London, we did that twice, and it's actually we're getting ready to announce the date and location for it again in 2020. And then we did Berlin for the first time, which was super cool. We partnered with Motel Beer over there, which is a tiny little, like, very contemporary craft brewery over there that also does hot flash brewed coffee in a can. So they do both. Like, they're coffee nerds and beer nerds. And so they were, like, a perfect partner for us. And that was a ton of fun.
How does that coffee compare to, like, I guess our coffee here? Like, often when we travel, like, there is a distinct thing of American coffee and anywhere else, and it's like, you have to accept that you're not just getting a cup of coffee.
Yeah, it's not going to have the same perspective, that's for sure. In general, that's true, but I would say in the last couple of years, Berlin has seen a real uptick in like what we would describe as like third wave coffee.
Okay.
So there was plenty of that there to lean on. And a lot of the people that came and poured or participated in Berlin came from all over Central Europe as well.
Oh, cool.
So there's not as much in just Berlin to pull from as there might be in Chicago. But in Central Europe in general, there was plenty of people that are like on the cutting edge that came out for something like this because they don't have an opportunity to do something like this very often.
Yeah. Okay.
So it was a great chance for them to like connect with fans like that. That was cool.
It's always interesting to hear that like almost American coffee culture has influenced other coffee culture, but our coffee culture came elsewhere.
Ours came from Melbourne, Australia, mostly.
Yeah.
The aesthetics of our coffee shops look like they follow the Melbourne cafe aesthetic. And it's all cyclical, man. It all goes back and forth. But you just got to remember, like the U.S. is so damn big.
Yeah.
You know, like what's happening in Europe. Like you have to compare what's happening in the U.S. to what's happening in Europe at large, which is where you'll find the diversity of things and the cutting edge of things.
That's true. Okay. Yeah.
You won't find all of that in one little country the size of Pennsylvania. You know, it's just not going to happen like that.
Yeah, I think we often get jaded here in Chicago. It's like, what? That's happening everywhere. There's like a few million people here. Like that's a lot of people. And what? You guys aren't on this like coffee wave or this beer wave or whatever we're on at the moment.
Yeah.
So
I think we take it for granted because we assume that we're not on the cutting edge of anything because we're like in the middle of America and like we're kind of taught that we're not the influence. Yeah. But I think sometimes if you take a step back, you'll see a lot of influence coming from here.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool for me that, like, because we started Uppers and Downers in Chicago, and that's always where the marquee event is, that, like, when we go to London or we go to Berlin, they're like, tell us about the Chicago one. Right? Like, that's, like, the exotic idea to them. And it's way bigger than those, and, like, that's cool, so it's got gravity. And, like, we have people that have flown from Berlin and London and Dublin and all those places to come to the Chicago one. Because we announced the one in Berlin. Like, well, I want to go see the original before I see this one.
Oh, wow.
They get really, like, they get super into it. It's cool.
Yeah, that's got to be fun to hear from them, like what they expect, or like what they're like, oh my god, this is too much coffee, or like what you guys are doing is like great. Yeah.
I think they just like to ride the ride. I mean, there was one year we had a guy coming from Japan. He was a home brewer there and a huge coffee nerd, and like he sent us some samples of stuff he was making just like as a home brewer, and it was pretty next level.
Okay.
And but he didn't speak any English, and so he had somebody like writing to us on his behalf in English, and so we ended up like hiring a translator for the day to like walk around with him at the festival so he could like talk to the producers and figure out what was going into the drinks, and like he could really connect, and he still sends us stuff. It's awesome.
Yeah,
that stuff's formative for people that are like looking for what's going on.
You need a Japan uppers and downers. That'd be fun. It'd be very slow. You'd have to wait like
I don't know, man.
15 minutes for your coffee.
Yeah, okay. In that way, it's slow. Yeah. I think they would probably surprise us in terms of what level they're on.
It'd be like
they, in a lot of ways, they're way ahead of us when it comes to like process and technique and just craft in general.
Mm-hmm. But you see videos of people like hand grinding beans, and you're like, oh my god, this is like.
Oh, you take it seriously?
Yeah.
I'll show you what serious is. Yeah.
When you see like the Chicago show, and then like when you think about a party like Half Acres party, far and away, and it's like, how do you know these folks? And Half Acres like, well, these are literally all people that we actually know.
Yeah.
And we invited them out. So, you're based here. I can see you pulling together folks that you know here.
Yeah.
But how does that translate when you go to these other places? Like, how do those other cities
we
come
follow
together?
it's still people-based, right? Still relationship-based. So London, for example, we have a huge team there compared to other countries. Like, we have 8 people in London. I was just there doing some work for a couple of days, and we went out to a brewery and met up with the team there, and our editor-in-chief is based there. And, like, we had like a dozen people that are, like, GBH people that all came out to hang out. So our relationships in London are huge. Like it's just as strong as Chicago for us in a lot of ways. Like we really are kind of like becoming like it's still like 20% of our audience, so it's not like it's 50-50 or anything. But in terms of our team, like we have a lot of expats that live in London. Evan Rail, who lives in Prague, is an expat, and so like there's this two-way street of American and international influence with GBH that's been there for a while, like under the surface. So when we wanted to do the London uppers and downers, we just relied on our team to like they have those relationships. They're just as connected there as we are here. So it was pretty easy for them to like. So to give you a sense of how this thing comes together every year, it's usually like, oh shit, it's almost December. Hey John, do you want to do uppers and downers again? Cool. It's February 23rd, and he's like, yes, of course. And like it's like 12 text messages, and then the brewers list is set. And then we other people like reach out and apply, and we get to know them, and like we bring in some cool stuff that we don't know because it's not just buddies. We want people that are really like super engaged and leaning in on that, so that helps mix it up. But no, it's all relationship based. It's who you know and who's doing cool stuff, and you're paying attention. And in Berlin, my partner on the series, Stephen Morrissey, who's the creative director at the Specialty Coffee Association, he helped me start it here in Chicago when he was in Intelligentsia. He knew the people at Motel pretty well on a personal level. He's like, I think you should find a way to meet these guys. I think they'd be interesting, and they could be a partner for us there. Yeah. I was in Budapest for the Central European Brewers Conference and took the train up to Berlin and spent 24 hours with them and just had the best time. Like, we grabbed a bunch of beers at the local bottle shop, went back to their apartment, and like made a bunch of pasta carbonara and invited friends over and partied a little bit. And at the end of it, I was like, yeah, these guys are going to be perfect for this. Like, they seem to understand just that little moment in their apartment in Mitte is told me everything I need to know about like how they make a vibe and like who their friends are and the kinds of things they think matter in the world. And I don't know, it just works.
It just kind of grows. Cheers to Evan Rail, by the way. I think the first time I went to that spot, Kaiser Tiger.
Yeah.
He gave a killer like 90-minute presentation on like Prague, but then specifically like Pilsner and Kel. It was really cool. So I met him once.
Yeah, he's at the top of that game.
Right.
So then for this uppers and downers, like Cruz Blanca has become like this big force. Like what was it last year, the year before?
Last year they went all. Well, they've done it 2 years in a row. That's like a big case study. Last year they just like controlled the center of the floor.
But their like name is as big as Goose Island on there, kind of like on your
bigger
sponsor. So they're like, I don't know. Jacob there is making great beers with coffee, and
that's really where it came from. Is like we'd been hungry for a while for somebody to like really reach out and like try some like wild stuff. And they were among the breweries that we worked with that really went for it. He was doing a bunch of like pineapple sours with coffee and stuff like that, and he was doing some like live blending into the glass, which people were kind of lose their minds over a little bit. That was cool. And so when I approached them I was like, we want to do this thing in the center of the floor next year. We're looking for somebody who can like just kind of bury the needle on it. And they just did. Last year they were doing like cotton candy. They did this like limoncello cocktail. They did like a non-alcoholic like barley tea kind of thing with malt, and they did some coffee beers, don't get me wrong. But they did all this cool stuff. So this year I approached them about doing it again, and like their first question was like, but how are we gonna do more than we did last year?
Right.
So this year they're going to anchor it again, and they're bringing Metric Coffee as a collaborator.
Okay.
And Billy Sunday, the cocktail bar in Logan Square, and the three of them are going to put on an experience in the center of that floor. And so for the first time ever, we have the like triumvirate of things that I think define what Uppers and Downers has become since it started as coffee beer, and that is mixology, it's coffee, it's beer, with spirits in the mix. So I'm pretty stoked to see what the three of those three groups are going to pull off.
Nice. And they're doing that for both sessions because sometimes the sessions vary a little bit for.
Yeah, not as much anymore.
Okay.
Just because like people were getting pretty ambitious, and it's like, really, I'm going to do this for 3 hours. So no, we kind of just like we shut down for an hour in between the sessions and reset, clean things up, and make it nice again, and then we do the same thing.
So it's less of you're not missing as much.
Not as much, no.
Okay.
Especially on the beer side. On the coffee side, we do swap them out, just because we only have like 6 roasters at a time. And so we needed a way to bring in some more folks.
Okay,
so the roaster side switches up.
Yeah, okay.
But the roasters that's going to be a big thing this year. Is in the past years we had them do single origin espressos all in the same La Marzocco machines, and it was like this pristine kind of like almost competitive experience. The feedback we're getting is that people are just having so much more fun experimenting at the intersection of cocktails and coffee and beer now, that they kind of just want to get rid of the constraints. So this year we're letting espresso, like as long as they can do it with the La Marzocco home machine and they can do it in that space that we give them, go for it. Like we'll support them, we'll help them get the power they need, we'll help them get the glass. Like they're going to be making a lot of specialty cocktail kind of drinks this year, which will be pretty wild.
Man.
I have no idea what to expect from that. I mean, in barista competitions, that's like a huge draw. Is like the specialty drink.
Really?
Like they'll compete on making like pretty next level like molecular gastronomy style kind of cocktail things, and there's definitely some roasters this year that want to go for that. So that'll be neat. And I think a lot of that's inspired by what Cruz Blanca did the last couple of years. Like they just kind of showed everybody like this is what it's like when you take the Band-Aid off,
Like we gotta step it up. We can't just be pulling espressos here. Like this is the amateur hour.
And Powers Whiskey that does that Irish coffee thing.
They were a big draw last year.
Yeah.
So that was 2 years ago.
Somebody wins. You do a competition then before it starts, and then whoever won, they show that they present that cocktail. Right?
Yeah. In the week run up, it's on Tuesday night at St. Louis Assembly. In the run up to that, I think it's the 18th. We do the cocktail competition. So everybody makes their riff on an Irish coffee, one way or another. Some people take more liberty than others. And then we judge them, and then we have the fans vote on one. We raise a bunch of money for charity, but the winner gets to make that for the whole festival, which is pretty rad. But this year, they're also going to be doing whiskey flights. Oh. Which is going to be pretty dope. So it's becoming
dangerous.
Yeah.
Eat before you come to this.
We got food. Some. You should definitely take that advice, though. But yeah, as far as I know, there's never been a beer festival with whiskey flights and coffee cocktails and.
It's in what is that? Bridgeport? Is that Bridgeport? No, that's Pilsen.
Yeah, Thalia Hall.
Gives you a chance to explore that neighborhood if you want to get your pregame in. That's a fun neighborhood.
Yeah, it is.
Then it stretches your idea of what normal is, right? Like it's such a unique fest in that regard. Yeah, that's the coolest part.
I don't know what stands out to you guys when you go, like when you walk away, like what is it? What sticks?
I do like having those coffees from the people that I don't go to, especially because since we talk about beer all the time, we have a lot more beer than the coffee places are like, well, I like these people, so I go to them. And so I don't make it over to 4-letter word, even though they're like not that far from me. Or it's just like, oh, well, I get dark matter and metric. That's sort of like my go-to.
Yep.
And so to be pushed out of that realm is like, oh.
Coffee's really habitual that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting because like in beer, we're described as promiscuous all the time. We never drink the same thing twice.
Yeah.
I mean, we do because we're getting older and we're settling into our ways.
We're done experimenting in a lot of ways, right? We're like, no.
But coffee people are more, they tend to be more creatures of habit for sure. They find the thing they like and stick to it.
Yeah, even when I buy beans at like the Whole Foods or something, I'm like, well, I like the metric one that I got last time. I'll just get that again.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's this other one. Yeah, I could.
I mean, newsflash, this is how 85% of the world buys beer too, right?
I guess I like that. I had it last time. It's still good to me. So.
Yeah, some of these experiences, these sensory experiences, are like mind-bending, like all these different flavors. And then even like, well, Guinness is upstairs, but Guinness doesn't bring their stout.
Right. Yeah, they bring a bunch of stuff from the Baltimore brewery.
Yeah, it's fun. It just in a town where we always talk about depth of brewery, it's cool to see this huge range of flavors within the coffee beer spectrum.
Right on.
Yeah, kind of like the like that cider summit. I thought it would just be apple juice for 3 hours.
Yep.
And you go, and some of them smell like blue cheese. And
Yeah,
they taste like
this is cheesy. This is Chardonnay.
It expands.
That's what you're gonna find out when we go to All Fizzed Up.
Oh yeah, have you heard about this?
This is all fizzed up. This is a hard seltzer festival.
Yeah, man.
Son of a bitch.
In fucking Milwaukee at some ballroom. I'm like, dude, it's going to be all 23-year-olds, and it's going to be madness, and we need to be there.
I think you do. I think you need to be there. You can tell me how it goes.
Yeah, it's like a March or something, man. Yeah.
At least it's all like 4.5%. That helps.
That's going to be... I think it's going to get weird.
Man.
Go ahead, sorry.
This year is the 10th anniversary of BCS Coffee.
Really?
So they're coming back this year with a case study, and they're going to kind of do it up.
Okay.
I don't know if you remember a couple years ago, they took over one of the little vestibules, and they were doing like
could pour your own.
They were doing verticals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was even like 4-person. It was like a big line.
Yeah, 4 or 5 people at a time with like a tutored tasting, and like you tasted through years of BCS coffee. So they haven't told me specifically what they're going to run this year, but it's going to be of that ilk, and that's the most popular thing we've ever done at Uppers and Downers. I'm excited to have that back.
That ought to be cool because last couple of years they haven't released a coffee stout.
Right, but they have this thing this year that I always butcher the name of it. It's
Cafe
like a
Diola thing.
Yeah, exactly. So I think they're going to be playing around with that a little bit this year too. They're planning on bringing some big guns this year. It's going to be pretty cool.
You were just saying you'd rather have coffee Bourbon County than Cafe Diola.
I went to Dark Matter has a new shop across street from Kuma's in Avondale, and I had the actual the coffee Cafe Diola, and I'm like, oh, I get it now. Because I had the BCS, I didn't really understand it.
Yeah, if you're comparing that to BCS coffee, like it's a totally different experience. Yeah.
So I got it now.
Yeah.
Wow, Goose BCS is. You forget about like how they kind of ushered in this era of because they were next door to Intelligentsia and coffee and beers.
Mm-hmm.
You don't really link it directly to them, but either them and also Big Hugs turned 10
totally
too.
Yeah.
So I think
one of my favorites that I remember having was Metro was doing basically little frappuccinos like cups one year, and that was super fun because their coffee program is pretty exciting all the time. So
and then I noticed you guys have a coffee blend. I think. Well, I saw the name of the fest on a coffee.
Yeah, last year so we do a roaster tour like in the middle of the week for people coming into town that want to go visit like a bunch of roasters. We're down on Fulton Street now, which is down near like Passion House and Metric and Intelli and a bunch of other folks. So a couple years ago we got the idea of like, oh, why don't we take people on a little walking tour of all the roasters that are like right near the studio as like a warm up to the festival, right? Like because people go on brewery tours all the time.
Right.
How many times you go into the back of a roaster, right? It just doesn't happen that often. It's not that kind of culture. So it's pretty cool to take a bunch of beer people behind the scenes and show them what a roaster looks like and how it operates and get some like hands-on sensory stuff. And for that, Metric makes like a little Uppers and Downers blend just for that, which is pretty rad. They've been good friends to the festival for a long time now. They always find like a new way to like do something cool and fun and like specific for it.
And that's the Friday before. There's like that week of events.
Yeah. So Tuesday is the cocktail competition, and then here I am not remembering the details.
It was Wednesday or Fridays. What day is the podcast?
You go to goodbeerhunting.com/events. You will see the full. So I think it's Friday we're doing the roaster tours. I think it's Friday.
Thursday's the podcast.
Saturday morning's the podcast.
Saturday morning's the podcast. Sorry.
It's a little mixed up this year because the festival's on a Sunday.
Oh.
So everything kind of
right,
pushed
okay.
like to a slightly different day because we were trying to get more people in for that dinner. So we're doing that the fancy chef charity dinner thing. We're doing that on Saturday night. So all of this is built around, and all of this is around Thalia's like rock and roll schedule. Like, so, you know, uppers and downers is kind of a big deal, but it's not as big as like a pretty killer rock show when it comes to revenue and you know, securing dates. So our options were to do it, you know, we opted to do it on the Sunday so we could just have it free and clear and like maintain the experience we want, and then like shifted a couple things around to take advantage of the whole weekend, which was actually kind of advantageous because we used to do that hangover party on the Sunday morning, and I am not doing the hangover party this year.
On paper it sounds nice, but when after the build up and the party,
Oh, when you got to get up the next morning after tearing down a whole festival, and you're like, I got to go host a podcast in front of a bunch of people. Yeah, that took some. I had to find another gear every year for that.
Yeah.
But so this year we're going to do that as a preview thing rather than
Okay.
a recap. So it'll be fun. We'll have a little meet and greet with a bunch of people. They'll bring some tasty things to drink, and we'll have a good time at the studio.
Now, I think last time I was at the Good Beer Hunting Studio, it was probably for like Garrett Oliver. You went a one-on-one with him for like an hour.
Oh man, yeah, it's been a minute.
That was in Logan, but
Yeah.
you're not in Logan anymore. You're
No, we're down on Fulton Street, like Fulton and Damon ish. Big new space for us, like more of like a big industrial space, paint the walls white kind of thing.
Yeah.
But we built a whole custom bar in there out of like beautiful oak, and we've got 6 tap handles, and we're set up for it. Yeah, it's a good time. We have our own little dedicated podcast, kind of like you have here. Like we have a dedicated podcast room now that's suited for it, and we're able to host some pretty rad little events there. Small still, we're not trying to do anything ambitious there, but 25, 30 people in there, like you can have a pretty rad time.
I don't know. We've been invited. We just haven't made it out.
We gotta get over there,
I
man.
know. Yeah.
Well, there's only more of this.
Yeah. We just opened the Central State IPA here.
Yeah, that could probably use a little chill, but how's it tasting?
That's nice. Yeah.
Sports TV.
Hops come right at you.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Big aromatics. I like that.
Yeah, we're working with this is one of our partners. We're working with Great Central to do these from now for a little while.
Okay.
Yeah,
And because he's where is?
based out of Indianapolis.
Okay.
Okay.
But for the scale they're looking for and what they're trying to do, and they're trying to transition to like a new phase of the business, it made sense to partner up with somebody like Great Central for a little while to do some of this stuff. And I think they killed it. I think they did a great job with this one.
Yeah, that's nice. It's confusing if you see it on the menu. If you're there, you're like, "Oh, Great Central, but Central State."
Oh, the word Central twice. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, just trying to keep it central.
Nice. Yeah, no, I do that.
Try, man. We're trying to keep it in the middle, man. You got so many moving parts, man. What are some of the other things you're looking forward to in 2020, man?
And well, we just launched that Sightlines Plus thing. I'm not sure if you saw that, which is like our premium news analysis kind of content that Brian Roth is leading.
Mm-hmm.
That's basically me and him on that side of the business. We really saw a window. Like there's Beer Business Daily, Beer Marketers Insights out there that do some really compelling content. Beer Business Daily is very focused on wholesalers. Beer Marketer Insights is very focused on the macro brewers and like has a ton of really rad stuff around that. But we saw a place in the market for people that were doing like analysis and trend watching and like helping people that like the mid-sized craft brewer and down level, like helping them think through like how do I make decisions about some of this stuff, especially as they're like entering distribution markets and things. Nobody was really talking at that level consistently. Like, these other folks would throw them a bone every once in a while, but nobody was really thinking through from the perspective of like who starts these things and what they're trying to build and what they want that thing to ultimately be. And that's where we exist almost all the time, right? Like these are all small, tiny breweries that we've helped launch and grow over the last 5 or 6 years, and so we have a ton of like very intimate knowledge about what those decisions look like, what the factors are, the emotional part that goes into some of that stuff. And so me and Brian Roth are basically taking what we did on Sightlines for a while and developed a premium offering around that was just like really digging deep into some data and then trying to extrapolate that to a decision matrix for somebody that's at a small to mid-sized brewery. Like, how do I use this? How do I make a quality decision? How do I think about this market that I'm in? That's been great. First month in, and it's already profitable, which is great.
Nice.
Thank God. We were rolling the dice a little bit on that, but we believed in the content, we believed in the product, and we built a community on the back of it. That was really our insight, is like, these people aren't like the executive CEO types that just want they don't just want insights in their inbox. They want to connect to each other, and they want to be able to communicate with each other and figure out like what is the next question I have. And so we're using the community part basically as a two-way dialogue.
Well, yeah,
create
especially
something
as
new.
collaboration stuff just helps.
Yeah.
Any of these breweries, so being able to connect with someone like, oh, I don't really know them. How do I get them? So they can
We're
do
creating
that.
our platforms. They can do that, and they can create their own value in some ways, which is cool. So that's been huge. Yeah, that was like one of our big launches for going into this year. And then the other thing we're going to be doing is we're going to be breaking apart the studio side and the editorial side, basically because editorial has become break even to profitable for the first time ever. I mean, a lot of people think that like they think we've like mastered some sort of secret on profitability for editorial, and it's like, no, we haven't. Like nobody's done that. But we have gotten it to the point where it's sustainable on its own, and it can make a little bit of money. We did profit sharing with our freelancers for the first time this year, which I've only heard of one other publication ever doing that, and so it's pretty unprecedented. But that kind of speaks to like what that is for us. Like that thing, we just want that thing to take care of itself and do the best job it can do for editorial for the industry. And that's been doing really well. So that's now put us in a position where it doesn't need to rely on studio revenues anymore to exist.
Nice.
So we're going to break that off, and we're going to rebrand the studio side because we've been working beyond beer for a little while now. We've been, with Roebuck, that's very much like a hospitality brand. We've been working in seltzer and cider and wine and spirits for a little while. We've been doing some innovation stuff on the spirit side.
What's your favorite part of all these things, or do you just like to sit above it all and kind of see what's going on?
Yeah, it's. I mean, that's kind of the feeling is like I've been working in innovation stuff for a long time now, like 15 years, and there's nothing I like more than paying attention to what's going on, tracking it, anticipating it, and being like there, right? And like you feel like you know something's going to happen in that direction. And if you can help somebody see it and you can communicate it well enough and you can get enough people looking in the same direction, like you can make something happen. And so we do that. We use design to do that. We use writing and analysis to do that. I love it, man. So like beer is my personal love, which is why we focused on it for so long. But I used to work in tech. We used to do Samsung mobile products. We used to work in Apple and Nike consumer gear and team gear. And like I'm used to working across like all consumer packaged goods and services. So naturally, my interest is extending beyond beer for a while now, and it just so happens that the craft beer drinker is starting to think a little bit beyond beer as well. They're interested in anything that's sort of craft oriented and delicious.
That's true.
So we're kind of following right along with them. So that's not even going to be called Good Beer Hunting anymore. It's going to be called Feel Goods Company.
Feel Goods.
Yeah.
Cool.
So that should be launching in the next couple of months.
That's awesome. That's
pretty
exciting.
psyched about that.
Yeah. What do you see, or what are you excited for on that like new beverage thing? Is it the seltzer? Is it hard coffee gonna happen?
Man, well, the easy answer is it's all gonna happen all the time.
That's true. Yeah.
So the important thing is to like understand the difference between like a big trajectory and just like a little blip. Like the hard coffee thing, that feels like it's trying to satisfy a functional need that's been around since Four Loko or before that. I mean, Four Loko was based on watching people do Red Bull and vodka, so like there's no mystery there. Like people want their uppers and downers at the exact same time.
Yeah.
There's something very American about that.
That's right. People like to stay even. They don't want to like.
Yeah. Can I balance this, or can I just have a lot of both?
I want to feel different, but I want to also be the same.
Right. So things like hard coffee I think are like interesting, but ultimately not that fascinating. Right. I'm really interested in some of the where we're taking like the better for you wellness kind of energy conversation in a more abstract way. Like there's all these like there's all these like adaptogen kin brands, like all these like low ABV using herbal extracts and things and all of that has this like new waviness to it that's like, what about that is real and what matters and what's placebo? That's not the part I'm interested in. I'm mostly interested in like how people are talking about their beverages right now and like how that's aligning with what they want their lifestyles to feel like and their bodies to feel like. And
yeah,
I mean, you and I, we're all pretty comfortable drinking beer and we're comfortable with how that makes our bodies feel. But there's a lot of people coming up right now that look at that and they're like, I don't know, man, that feels heavy and slow and like I'm not looking to feel that way.
There's an email that came out about the German Olympic team and how they're drinking this non-alcoholic beer and all
Yeah.
the nutritional benefits of it.
Yeah.
Right.
It's kind of sounds like something built around that.
Yeah.
Just not too far from it.
There's there's always a new generation coming, and their perception of what is and isn't interesting is always kind of like off kilter to the previous generation. And so I love thinking about the next generation of people that are coming up and what they're interested in and why.
And the beverage side, it's really just about what you like the taste of, because
Sure.
it's like soda was popular forever, and that has nothing good for you. So like,
Well, we also live in a world where you can make anything taste like anything anymore.
Yeah,
so like,
that's true.
does it matter if it's a beer or a seltzer or a thing? Like, it does if you care about the tradition of that craft.
Yeah.
Right. Like I care deeply about the tradition and craft of beer, and so like that matters to me. And when it becomes something that's like not beer enough for me, like a lot of the slushy stuff, like that can be delicious and it can be fun. I don't feel connected to it, you know, and so like I feel connected to beer for these other reasons. So I am interested to see like, is there tradition in craft that will draw on a younger audience, or are they going to come at it from a totally different angle than we are? Like a lot of the stuff that we're interested in with craft beer has a lot to do with heritage and tradition, and there's some nostalgia. Like
But there's still a lot of that,
authenticity.
like-
The word authenticity means so many different things to different generations.
I think that a lot of that like local homegrown stuff is still important and will be important, and that's kind of why I love, especially doing Chicago Beer Pass. We talk about Chicago beers mostly. It's like,
Yeah.
these are what we drink, and these are the people that we like to hang out with.
Yeah,
so.
totally.
Certain places, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely drinking more local stuff than anything else, and like, even if I say like I don't know if local really matters to me, like look at my purchase behaviors. Totally matters to me, you know. So there's the intellect, and then there's the emotion, and then there's like you know how you negotiate those two things. I don't know. I think it's fascinating stuff. So where people are going, you know, beyond beer. I mean, they've always been beyond beer. It's just our niche is now becoming like we're paying attention to a lot, and I think you can see it in the way that Uppers and Downers has evolved as well. As people are, I mean, the whole point of that was to get people to move cross category and experience other things, and now we're seeing them want to blow up those barriers altogether. So
This isn't enough.
let the
cross.
kids play, as they say.
That's cool. So February 23rd,
Yeah,
2 sessions.
Sixth
Yep.
annual, yeah.
yep.
That's crazy.
Been at it for a minute.
That was quick.
I think I've been to 3 or 4 maybe.
Nice.
This might be my third coming up.
Okay.
Yeah. Last year I remember seeing you and Shalana hanging out up in the balcony, taking a minute.
Yeah,
Like-
it's one of those that we can both enjoy, and you know, it's kind of the vibe downstairs is totally different from the one upstairs, and yeah, it's not just a beer festival like we talked about. So
Yeah.
it's a good hang.
This year up in that balcony, you can grab a magazine, and you can grab a bottle of High Life. They're gonna come do a little lounge thing and give you a palate cleanser, which is sort of funny. It's funny to think of like something like High Life into that like super esoteric environment. But last year we saw so many people drinking pilsners, making their own gin and tonics, drinking some topos. It's like, oh right, like this has a huge place in the world like that.
Yeah, we just did a show where we did Chug Life versus High Life, and kind of
Where'd you net out?
It becomes a situation and status. Like, do you want to look like a beer nerd? You're gonna bring Chug Life. Like, where are you going, and who do you need to show off?
It's like, do I need irony to feel okay, or can I just do the real thing?
Yeah, or do you just need to crush a 6-pack at the beach?
Yeah.
Then you're gonna go High Life.
So
You're
yeah,
not
some
gonna-
of them are.
So it was kind of, we were indifferent, and they both. You could drink more Chug Life than you could High Life in the end. Like, you felt better, and the taste. I think we both agreed on that.
Well,
but
it was some of those verses are gonna be like, all right, well, look at this big gigantic brewery at this price, and this other one at this price, right?
yeah, 50 cents a can to, what was it, $3 a can or $2 a can? It's
And,
like,
yeah, and you're like, well, what am I trying to
What are you
say
trying to
here?
do?
What am I trying to say here? But then some of them are just fun. Like I think the second one was like double honey IPA. So it was like a Pipeworks offering versus like Hop Snap.
Okay.
And it's like, all right, cool. These are similar price and similar taste. Everything's similar, but which one do you want?
Yeah, right,
those
right.
are fun. Yeah, nice.
Huh. Yeah, we were the irony generation. That's like we came up during the time when like you did things counter to what you were supposed to do, and that's how you got away with it, right? I don't know. Like, it goes back to like what authenticity means to the next generation. It's a totally different thing.
It's a champagne of beers, man. It says it right on the bottle. Right?
You know, I need to look into this. It occurred to me the other day, like an idiot. How are they allowed to put the word champagne on there? You're not if you're not a winemaker, you're not allowed to put if you're a cider maker, you're not allowed to put a year statement because that's a vintage, and winemakers have that locked up.
Oh.
Yeah, you're not allowed to name the grape if it's a cider that uses Cab Sauv, you're not allowed to say Cab Sauv. You're not allowed to say it's from the Finger Lakes. You're not allowed to say any of those things because it competes with wines like lockdown with lobbyists on like what defines wine. But High Life can just put the word champagne on there. I think it's amazing.
Somebody paid off someone a long time ago.
How do they get away with it? I got to figure out the loopholes on that. That's impressive. They just did it.
It's fun.
All right. Well, I'm excited for Uppers and Downers. This gets me more excited. I want to know what Cruz Blanca's up to. We got to get over there and talk to Jacob. And
Now I had the case studies. Do we know all the case studies? You know all the case studies.
Yeah, so Cruz Blanca is the big one.
Okay.
They're coming back for a reprise, and they're going to do some wild stuff with Billy Sunday and Metric Coffee. Like, that's the triumvirate. The other case study is going to be Goose Island. They're going to do something to celebrate 10th anniversary, and then a bunch of other stuff that they want to do. And then we've got Guinness upstairs in that main bar. They're going to do some pretty wilds coming up on St. Patty's Day. So I think they're kind of interested in like a little bit of a nod to that, which will be cool. And then we've got the whiskey.
whiskey flights.
Yeah, those whiskey flights are going to be rad. Those are the big ones. Yep.
I think you did a good job of like, the party's really fun, but then like the timing of the party is spot on too. Like, right after all that Super Bowl jazz. Like,
and just when you can't fucking take it anymore.
We're,
The Chicago
You're
winner.
down with Chicago winner.
Yeah, it's like, all right, here's this beacon. Hold on.
Yeah.
Don't leave. Don't leave.
Hold on. Pitchers and catchers just reported. Spring. We promise spring is coming. Right. Uppers and Downers sits right at that moment.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Yeah. So right on, man.
Gets me through.
Cool. Get your tickets. We'll include links in the show notes and everything. Yeah, Michael, thanks for joining us. This was great.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I love talking about this thing. I like hanging out with you guys.
Cool. We'll be back with another episode soon. Nick, where can people find you? Get in touch.
Right on, man. I'm on Twitter at Nicosio.
And I'm on Twitter at brad, goodbeerhunting.com, Twitter, all the places as well. And we'll link it up. Take care.
Cheers.